My name is Erin R. Sandoval. I'm 31. I work in operations for a logistics company. Stable job, not flashy. I rent a decent apartment. I pay my bills on time. I'm not rich, but I'm not struggling either. I'm not trying to be impressive. I'm trying to be consistent. My boyfriend, now my ex, is 28. We had been together just under 2 years. He works in marketing. He's very social. Big friend group chats, brunches, birthdays that last entire weekends. From the outside, we probably looked fine. No screaming fights, no cheating that I knew about. We traveled a little, met each other's friends, talked loosely about the future without locking anything down. But there was always an edge with him, a way he talked to me when other people were around, like I was part of the set dressing, not the main cast. He had a habit of correcting me in public. Little things, how I told a story, what I wore, how I pronounced a word. If I pushed back, he'd smile and say, "Relax, I'm just helping you." His friends would laugh. I'd let it go. I told myself it was harmless. Friday night was his friend Lily's birthday. Loud place downtown, packed. The kind of bar where you have to lean in to talk and everyone's half performing for each other. I showed up on time, brought a gift, bought a round, did everything right. About an hour in, he was already tipsy and holding court. I stood next to him while he told some story about a woman he used to date who now runs a startup. One of his friends joked that he always dated up. That's when he looked right at me, smirked, and said, "Well, not always." People laughed. I felt it land, but I stayed quiet. A few minutes later, someone said something about relationships, and he waved his hand and said, "Honestly, she'll never really be on my level." Then he looked straight at me and said, "You'll never be good enough for me, but that's okay." It was loud. Everyone heard it. The room didn't explode or go silent like in movies. It was worse. A few people laughed. A couple looked away. Someone muttered, "Damn," under their breath. He just stood there smiling like he'd landed a perfect punch. I remember thinking that if I reacted emotionally, I'd look exactly like the person he was describing. Defensive, small, proving his point for him. So I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult him back. I didn't storm off immediately. I just looked at him and said, "You're right." That caught him off guard. The smile flickered. He clearly expected an argument or a wounded speech. Instead, I nodded like he'd corrected my math. I took my jacket off the chair, put my phone in my pocket, and said, "Happy birthday to Lily." Calm voice, normal volume. He laughed and said, "Wait, are you being dramatic right now?" I said, "No, I'm agreeing with you." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I walked to my car, got in, and sat there for a minute with the engine off, letting the noise drain out of my head. Then I drove home. On the drive back, my phone buzzed a few times. I ignored it. I wasn't angry. That was the weird part. I felt clear, like something loose in my head finally clicked into place. At home, I put my keys down, poured a glass of water, and sat on the couch. I didn't text him. I didn't post anything. I didn't rehearse a speech. Around midnight, my phone started lighting up again. Not from him, from numbers I recognized. His friends, the same people who laughed, the same people who heard everything. That was when things took a turn I didn't expect. The first message came from someone I barely talked to. Jenna. We'd exchanged maybe 5 sentences total in almost 2 years. "Are you okay?" she wrote. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the screen, surprised she'd reached out at all. Then another message came in. Mark, one of the guys who'd laughed earlier. "Hey, that was rough. You didn't deserve that." A few seconds later, Lily herself texted, "I'm really sorry about what happened. I didn't know he was going to say that." That was when I realized this wasn't going the way he probably expected. I finally replied to Jenna and just said, "Yes, I'm fine. I went home." She responded almost immediately. Good, because that wasn't okay. Mark followed up with something that stuck with me. He said, "He's been saying stuff like that for a while, but tonight was the first time he said it to your face." I asked what he meant. There was a pause, long enough that I knew he was deciding whether to cross a line. Then he said, "He talks about you like you're a temporary situation, like you're someone he's dating until something better lines up. Most of us assumed you knew." I stared at my phone for a long time after that. More messages came in. Different people. Same theme. Awkward apologies. Explanations that all sounded like, "We thought you were in on the joke," or "We didn't think he'd ever say it out loud." No one defended what he said. Not one person tried to excuse it. Lily sent another message that hit harder than the rest. She said, "After you left, he went off. He said you embarrassed him by walking out and that you proved his point by being insecure. She paused, then added, I told him no. You proved the opposite. You handled it better than anyone in that room would have. Apparently, that didn't go over well. Lily said he tried to laugh it off at first. Then he got defensive. Then he got mean. He started saying I was lucky he even dated me, that he was trying to help me level up, that I should be grateful for his honesty. Lily told him if that was how he really felt, he should have kept it private or broken up with me instead of humiliating me in front of everyone. According to her, that's when the room fully turned. People stopped laughing. A couple of his friends told him to chill. Someone said, "Man, that was out of line." He grabbed his jacket and left angry and alone. I didn't respond to him that night at all. At 2:17 in the morning, he finally texted me, "Are you really going to ignore me over a joke?" I put my phone face down and went to sleep. I woke up to a wall of messages. They swung hard between anger and guilt. First he said I overreacted. Then he said I abandoned him. Then he said I embarrassed him in front of his friends. Then he said he was sorry if I was hurt, but that I needed thicker skin. That last one told me everything. I replied once, just once. "We need to talk later, not over text." He called immediately. I let it ring. I wasn't ready to hear him try to rewrite reality in real time. Instead, I went about my day. Grocery store, gym, laundry, normal things, grounding things. Every time my phone buzzed, I checked it calmly. No spike of anxiety, no urge to fix anything. Around mid-afternoon, Jenna texted again. She said he was losing it in a group chat, saying people betrayed him, saying they should have backed him up, saying I was manipulative for leaving quietly instead of arguing. Jenna said something that stuck with me. When you left, it forced everyone to actually hear what he said. If you had yelled, it would have turned into drama, but you agreeing with him made it impossible to pretend it was a joke. That felt right. By early evening, he finally sent a message that sounded different, shorter, quieter. "Can we please talk tonight? I feel sick about this." I agreed to meet at my place. Neutral ground. Somewhere I could leave the conversation if I needed to without packing a bag. He showed up around 7, eyes puffy, no bravado, arms crossed like he was bracing for impact. The panic had already started. He started with, "I didn't mean it like that." The sentence came out fast, like he'd been practicing it in the car. I asked him how he meant it. He said he was frustrated, that he felt like he was carrying the relationship, that he wanted me to be more ambitious, that his friends all dated people who were farther along. He said it like context would soften the blow. I asked him why he said it in front of everyone. He said, "Because you don't listen when I say things privately." That wasn't true, but I didn't argue. I just asked one question. "If you really believe I'll never be good enough for you, why are you dating me?" He didn't answer right away. He cried instead. Quiet tears, shallow breaths, no words. I sat there and let it happen. I didn't touch him. I didn't rush to reassure him. I wanted to see what came after the emotion. When he finally spoke, he said he felt stuck, that he loved parts of me but worried he was settling, that seeing his friends with louder lives made him panic. He said he never meant to hurt me. He just blurted it out. I told him something calmly that I hadn't said before. "You don't get to manage your insecurity by cutting me down." He looked at me like the thought had never occurred to him. I explained that ambition isn't something you shame someone into. Respect isn't something you threaten away. Love doesn't include keeping score in public. He tried to pivot. He said he was just being honest. He said couples should push each other. He said I was twisting his words. I stopped him. "This isn't about wording. You told me I'll never be good enough for you. I'm choosing to believe you." That landed. He asked if I was breaking up with him. I said I already left. Tonight was just logistics. He got angry then. He said I was being cold. That real relationships fight. That walking away was cowardly. I told him staying when someone tells you they see you as lesser isn't maturity. It's self-abandonment. We sat in silence. Finally, he asked what I wanted. I told him I wanted my keys back and some space. He took his keys off the counter and set them down without arguing. Then he asked if this was really it. I said yes. He left shortly after. No yelling, no scene, just quiet resentment. After he left, my phone buzzed again. Lily texted, "I just want you to know, after you walked out, a lot of us realized we'd been letting him talk about you like that for months. You leaving made it impossible to ignore." That's when I understood what walking away had actually done. The first wave came fast. Missed calls stacked on my screen. Long texts sent back to back. He accused me of planning it. of waiting for the right moment to humiliate him, of being weak for agreeing with him instead of arguing like a normal person. He said I blindsided him, that I embarrassed him, that I proved his point by leaving quietly instead of fighting. I didn't respond. Then the tone shifted. Confusion replaced anger. He asked if I was serious, if this was really happening, if I just needed space, if we were actually done. The questions overlapped, tripping over each other, like volume could reverse a decision. I stayed silent. By midnight, the apologies started. Not clean apologies, conditional ones. I'm sorry if you felt compared. I'm sorry if my honesty came out wrong. That's not what I meant. I read them once and put my phone down. The next morning, I blocked him. No announcement, no warning. Phone, messaging apps, socials, everything. I wasn't doing it to punish him. I was doing it because I'd already seen how this played out when the door stayed cracked open. He didn't handle the silence well. By that afternoon, mutual contacts started reaching out. People asking what happened. People saying he was spiraling. People saying he didn't understand how I could just disappear. One message stood out. A friend said, "He keeps saying he can't believe you didn't fight for him." That made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was revealing. Fight for what? A role where I was constantly being measured against someone else. A relationship where respect was conditional. He didn't miss me. He missed the validation. He missed having someone to push against. And now there was no surface left. That's when the unraveling began. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a slow loss of control he couldn't stop. He started reaching out through other people. Friends I barely knew. Co-workers, even my cousin, who he followed on social media but had never spoken to. Different versions of the same message. He wants closure. He doesn't understand what happened. He just wants to talk like adults. I declined all of it. Not defensively, not angrily, just no. What surprised me was how quickly his story started to crack once I stopped participating. Without my reaction, he had nothing to bounce off of. Without a villain actively engaging, his narrative stalled. A mutual friend told me he kept repeating the same line. She left me the same way my ex did. Like that was the injustice. Not why it happened, just that it happened again. Someone finally asked him if maybe there was a common denominator. He didn't like that question. Once that question landed, everything around him shifted. Not in a loud way, in a quiet, unsettling way that stripped him of control. 2 different women. Different jobs, different timelines, same ending. No yelling, no chasing, no second chances. Just a clean exit after being compared and diminished. He kept insisting it was coincidence, that women like that always leave when they realize they can't measure up. The room didn't agree anymore. I heard updates without asking for them, the way you do when someone's story starts unraveling on its own. He tried dating again almost immediately. App screenshots, first date stories, the same routine. But there was a difference this time. He kept bringing up his exes, both of us, framing us as women who wanted admiration without accountability. People stopped engaging. Once a pattern becomes visible, it's hard to unsee it. He tried one last angle through email. Professional, polite, almost detached. He wrote that he'd been reflecting, that he understood now why things fell apart, that he wasn't asking to get back together, just asking for closure. 10 minutes, coffee, neutral ground. I read it twice, not because I was tempted, but because I noticed what wasn't there. No ownership, no accountability, no acknowledgement of comparison or entitlement. It was framed like a mutual misunderstanding time and maturity could smooth over. I didn't reply. That's when the silence finally did what no argument ever could. Without my reaction, without my reassurance, without my anger, he had nothing to push against. The narrative stalled. The audience thinned. The leverage slipped. Meanwhile, my life got simpler. No tension before speaking. No internal math about whether a comment would be used against me later. No sense that I needed to outperform a memory to earn baseline respect. One night, I sat on my couch and realized my shoulders weren't tight anymore. I hadn't even noticed they were before. A friend told me he was fixated on the similarity, 2 women leaving the same way. He kept saying it out loud, like repeating it would turn it into an injustice instead of feedback. Someone finally said what no one had said before. Maybe it isn't bad luck. Maybe it's how you talk to people. He didn't have a comeback for that. The last update reached me without me asking for it. A friend I trust said he finally admitted something out loud that didn't sound rehearsed. He said he couldn't understand why people kept leaving when he was just being honest. That phrasing mattered. Just being honest was how he justified comparison. Just being honest was how he excused disrespect. Just being honest was how he avoided responsibility for how his words landed. My friend told him something he didn't want to hear. Honesty without care isn't honesty, it's entitlement. And comparing your partner to someone else isn't motivation, it's erosion. He went quiet after that. No joke, no reframing. Silence. That was new for him. I heard he tried dating again, but the energy around him had changed. People listened differently. Compliments didn't land the same. Stories didn't get the same reaction. When you lose the ability to control the narrative, you're left with your words echoing back. Nothing dramatic changed in my life. No revenge glow-up, no cinematic twist, just peace. Just the absence of being measured against a ghost. I noticed how my body felt, how I spoke without bracing, how I didn't replay conversations afterward to see where I'd gone wrong. I hadn't been wrong. I'd been accommodating. I thought about the moment he said I'd never be good enough for him. At the time, it felt like a dig. Later, it felt like a confession. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a benchmark, someone to stand on to feel secure. And the moment I refused that role, the structure collapsed. I didn't leave to teach him a lesson. I didn't leave to mirror his past out of spite. I left because once you see a pattern clearly, staying becomes self-betrayal. 2 women leaving the same way broke the story he told himself about being unlucky in love. It forced a different question. He isn't ready to ask it. As for me, my life didn't explode. It simplified. I stopped shrinking. I stopped competing with memories. I stopped auditioning for respect. Quiet nights felt earned. Silence felt clean. If someone tells you you'll never be good enough for them, listen the first time. Don't debate it. Don't negotiate it. Don't try to earn your way out of it. Some statements aren't insults. They're exits. I took mine.